really is going on, that you have some goals, yeah. So in this case, the question of asylum is very big issue for me, because it's important that we provide the possibility for asylum seekers to be employed. Employment does not always lead to that you get the permission to live in Finland, but employment is something that makes you mentally healthy. That's one of the biggest issues in refugee camps. It's mental illnesses that are not tackled, because people sitting there without doing anything except some random organized Finnish course. That's the thing. I have been personally in refugee camp in 2013 when I just came in Finland, because I came as a political refugee here. So I was in this system quite recently, and I know what that and how that feels when you are not there, but you are not here, and you have nothing to do. That's the thing that should be changed in asylum politics in Finland, is like to provide better possibilities for asylum seekers to be employed. That's the first thing. And once again, employment does not always lead to temporary residence permit, or it's another case. Yeah. Then the validation of knowledges and certificates that people got in their home countries. This process is quite slow going. It's really like old system, which does not match our nowadays needs. Yeah, so we have to ensure that people who got education in their countries, they don't need to go their education again here. We have very big lack in care field. Yeah, we have the population, which is according to statistics by the 2030. Yeah, we will have 26% of people in age 65 plus. 26%. That's really much, and about 15 of them will be in age 80 and over. Yeah, so we have to also think about how do we provide the acknowledging of people who come here with their medical education.
Okay,
that's
yeah.
Also.
So you're proposing validation of diplomas and certificates from home countries.
It works now, but it should be faster. Okay. Yeah, the regulation now gives too much space for
all right.
Minister of Education to work with that.
All right, Daniel. Yes.
Thanks. Okay, so there are 2,000 people, those who talk and those who do, and politicians, by definition, fall into the category of talkers. So I come totally outside of politics, and I regard that as my biggest strength. This means that I'm allergic to professional politicians. I don't think it should be a profession as such. People should go into politics and get out, preferably do something before actually getting into politics and get merits there. So we're talking about these things. I know quite a bit of them. I actually started a refugee center in 2015. So when the country was in crisis, we were talking with Migri, with the immigration center run by the state, before the refugee crisis hit Europe. That was summer of 2015. So we had the foresight of seeing what is going to happen in Europe and Northern Europe and Finland as well. So that ended up with, actually, it was not our intention, but the directors at Migri asked us to set up a refugee center for the people who are coming and operate that for a number of years. So we saw that firsthand, what is the asylum crisis, who are the asylum seekers, how are we treating them, what is the country doing in integrating people as they come here, how long are these processes, etc., etc. So we saw this firsthand and had quite a clear idea of what is going on over there. What we saw was that these processes are very inefficient, they're inhumane, they last too long, they're super expensive, and the outcome is usually that people end up wasting years of their time and lives in these asylum centers usually in the middle of nowhere, where people just get depressed, frustrated, demotivated, etc., etc. So nothing good comes out of this sort of a thing. Obviously, 2015 was an exception. It was a shock. In a very short period of time, this thing happened, which is not a good way to handle immigration, handle refugees, handle asylum seekers, handle the whole issue. However, this thing, what we saw in the refugee centers, and we visited quite a bunch of them, led us into seeing that we have a lack of structure in this country of recognizing talent, integrating people that are very driven, capable, want to be part of the society, maybe speak very good English, etc., etc. So we wanted to build a fast track for this type of people that usually were highly educated and driven and motivated. So this led us into starting a company called Integrify, where we actually take people that are willing to work hard and motivated, teach them coding, and then place them into jobs. One of our coders has actually coded Ajax website, so that's what we do on a daily basis.
Alright.
So about immigration as such, like was mentioned, it's an umbrella term that covers people from all aspects of life. So we have refugees, we have asylum seekers, we have people who come here as students who want to stay in the country after that. We have people who come here highly skilled because they were called by a company and offer a job, etc. So it's very, very difficult to talk about this topic when it's so diverse. So we should mainly focus on such one topic and talk about that. One thing that the party...
We have to...
If I just make my last point, very concrete thing that we have currently in Finland, which I think is very wrong and we should do something about it in the next government, is this thing called tarveharkinta, which is a means test. So basically there's a Finnish company wants to hire somebody outside of EU or ETA countries, and the person accepts the job offer, the company wants to bring the person in, but it's not this easy because the state wants to interfere and meddle and have their own decision of whether we want to take this person or not. I think this is totally bonkers with the current national economy, the labor market, and it's a way to inhibit or it's a way to enforce protectionist policies, which I don't agree at all, and we think we should abolish this in the next government. Ajax party certainly doesn't think so, which is a bit paradoxical because they want to keep the borders open for humanitarian immigration and totally block the borders when it's work-based.
Yeah, thank you. So Fatim, and then we can...
Thank you. I think it would be really nice if we can respect the audience and also stick to our timeline so that everyone gets to speak. Okay, so here we go. I agree strongly, and the Greens agree strongly with Daniel and with Kokoomus on the topic of tarveharkinta, that is a demand issue. We see that when you look at Finland and Finnish people, we know that we have a bunch of elderly people and we need more labor force. I know that this has been a typical topic for Left Alliance and for the Social Democrats, but slowly I think the Left Alliance has turned a bit to our side, and Social Democrats are also a bit kinda slowly. There's discussion, and the Anderson has said in some debate that this is something that we have to see how it actually goes. But this is something that we strongly feel that we should change in Finland. And as I actually agree with almost most of the things that Daniel there said. And I would say that in immigration policies, Kokoomus, the Coalition Party and the Greens agree on almost everything except when we discuss the refugee issue. In the refugee issue, the Greens have a more open policy, and we see that at the moment the problem is that there's not enough ways for people to come to European Union in legal terms, in a safe and a legal way. It is really shameful what is happening on our borders and the borders of the European Union, and it is something that is our fault. So it means that we have to have a more open and a better immigration policy so that people can actually apply and come to European Union on legal terms and stay and work. And also when Daniel said that he's a doer and not a speaker, when I was teaching in Korso, what I did after my school days, I taught Finnish to immigrant parents. So meaning that I think that most of the politicians sitting here are also doers and not just speakers. Thank you.
Thank you. I have so much problems with Daniel that you said, and I think Kokoomus, and now I know that also Greens probably favor this because Fatim just said that she agrees with most of what Daniel has said. There are two types of immigrants. There are those immigrants in this country that are educated and that want to go to work and that are ready to work because they come from countries where they didn't come for reasons of prosecution or from war, and that's the majority of immigrants. Then you have the other part of the refugees, the people who have really problems. Some of them, it's going to take time for them to kind of, get out of the all that horror that they saw. I think for me, a child in 8 years in 2003 when Iraq was invaded, and for the last 15, 17 years has been living in only hell to come here and then expect him to go after 1 year of courses to go to work, it's absurd. These people need time. The kind of immigrants Kokoomus would like are exactly not from war-torn countries. They would like people who are ready. In 2015, when refugees came here, a lot of companies opened up and they were making money out of refugees that came here. They were giving them places to stay. I need to make this point, please, so please don't show me that yet because I need to use the 3 minutes. Very quickly, it is very unfair that you have these political parties that would like to favor immigrants of different background than others. We already know from some political parties that are saying that let's get people from this and that country, let's get this kind of, this is what the US and what Canada is doing, that's what Finland cannot do. We are very close with the Left Alliance on the issues of making sure that we don't have two labor markets in this country. And I think, and I know that Kokoomus is doing this. It doesn't care that an immigrant person will get 7 euros an hour while the Finnish person will get 10 or 11 euros an hour. This is what is happening at the moment. This is what we're trying to fight. And I'm very really surprised that Fatim and Greens will say that we agree with what Kokoomus are doing because they are pro-immigrants. And I'm very, very shocked that we talk about this because it's going to take time for people to get out of that problem before they are ready to do the work they're supposed to do. Before we get people from outside the country, we need to put the ones who are here, who have the potentiality to put them also. In my first 5 years in Finland, I was in trauma. I couldn't really do all the things that I wanted to do. As a kid, after seeing all the dead people around, after seeing all that massacre and all that things that are happening, that is exactly what's happening with the people that are coming from Iraq at the moment. But once again, now we are talking about exactly refugees, while we should be talking about the majority of the immigrants who are here and what we can do for them. Do you know how many immigrants after they finish schools here cannot find a job and they leave the country? And we give them education for free. Do you know how many of them at the moment are very frustrated working in McDonald's? There's no disrespect in working in McDonald's, but why do you give somebody all the way a master's degree and then the only job he can do is to do work in McDonald's? This is what we need to be addressing and making sure that we use this education we give to these people. Thank you.
Wonderful. So if we're, so just to, okay. So just we're following, so some of the parties are for work-based immigration, and we'll give you Daniel, and then also for work-based immigration, and then also open borders for refugees to come. But then, Alexander, your point is then that we should be able to allow people to utilize the diplomas or whatever they've acquired, so the skill sets, and but then before we get to you, it sort of ties into the next question that in 2016 alone, the government of Finland allocated 250 million euros to integration programs that are targeting whether refugees or immigrants that have graduated here, but much hasn't happened. You know, you have so much of these activation models and stuff, and they're not working. So I'll give Daniel the floor just to clear the air. Yeah.
Comment after Daniel, thank you.
And if we could try to stick to our parties and not point and pointing.
I'm talking about parties also.
Okay. Yeah. So Daniel, please.
Thanks. Very hard to argue around facts. What Huso here said or made an argument that my party or our party would somehow be against humanitarian immigration or refugees or such, or just only favors highly educated immigrants. This is total bonkers. This is not true at all. The current Minister of Interior, Mr. Kai Mykkänen, and these immigration things fall under his responsibility. The first thing he said when he became the Ministry of Interior, that we should raise the refugee quota from 750, that is, it is today in Finland, to 10,000. So that's over a 10x raise in the amount of humanitarian refugee aid and how many people we want to bring into Finland. So I don't think I need to elaborate on that point anymore. What I have to say about the next question is that integration of newcomers is paramount to the success of Finland, and on an individual level, it's one of the most important things we need to do and focus on. It's true that these programs are totally inefficient and are not working today. The way it's run is that you learn first 6 months the weekdays, and then the latter 6 months basically months. So people come out of these trainings, they are running around in classroom settings, not really learning the language or getting into jobs. And I think this is a totally reverse way of doing integration. We think it's work-based integration that should solve this challenge. We need to equip people with the skill set that they can find a job, get into jobs, and that way also form or become part of society and integrate the society. You will also learn the language once you are in society and part of it, and start making friends with Finns as well. So we're doing a reverse type of integration which doesn't work. What our company is doing is we're training people with a skill set that's sought after in the labor market, and people will get into jobs with only speaking English and not even speaking a word of Finnish. So these are the type of things that I think are modern ways in the 21st century to integrate.
Thank you, Daniel. And Fatim?
Thank you, Daniel, for a new advertisement for your company. What I was saying is that the difference with Kokoomus and Greens would be that we are not so much for cherry picking as Kokoomus is when we discuss immigration and when we discuss refugees. And also, he said that, Kai Mykkänen, our interior minister, when he started, he said 10,000 refugees, but when you read their political documents, it is not mentioned there. And that is the point. It is not what ministers say in speeches. It is what is the policy that the parties make. It is the goals that the parties set, and it is what the parties demand in negotiation. That is what is the truth, and what people, that is what they do, and that not the things that they say. What I wanted to add to this discussion is the situation with students. When I was working in the Union of University Students as an international specialist, we did a study for international graduates in Finland. What is the main reason why people stay, and what is the main reason why people leave? And what we saw from this study was that the main reason for people leaving, surprise, surprise, is that people don't get jobs. I think this is something really clear, and everyone can see this. And then we went to what is the reason why people don't get jobs, and the reason is language skills. The Finnish labor market is still not really flexible, and it is, well, it's as flexible as my grandma, meaning not at all. It's really like stable and not moving, and still there's a lot of racism, because also when we went to this study, we could see that people coming from different countries had a different kind of treatment. The Finnish labor market is the hardest for African descent people, and the easiest for Europeans, for EU citizens, and then for people coming from white countries, and after that from Asia. And this is something that you can see, and we have studied from this, and it is really, really awful. But then, something that we should really discuss is that how much Finnish do we actually need? And whose responsibility is it to teach Finnish? From my perspective, I see that in universities and in University of Applied Sciences, we should provide students a level of Finnish with what you can actually get employed. And that is, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't mean to disrespect my friend, and I think what he's trying to do is a good job, but the reality is, Daniel mentioned in the beginning that he's more of a doer than a talker, and he just mentioned also that Kokoomus, Kai Mykkänen, Interior Minister, said that 10,000 people that's bogus. You can say a lot, but then the things that have been done in the last 4 years is really different from what they're saying. What Kokoomus is good at doing is really talk very beautiful to immigrants. Oh, we're putting you to work, we are doing this and we are doing that. But the reality is they want immigrants to have a different set of labor, to have a different set of money, to make sure that they get this 7 euros an hour, 8 euros an hour, or put those people who come from really very good backgrounds and have really studied well, immigrants, to be discriminated against in the labor market. This is a reality. He mentioned facts. This is a fact. This is not my own opinion. It is also the Social Democrats' opinion. So they are gaining money out of. I'm not calling now Kokoomus. I'm talking about these companies that are really, taking immigrants in and putting them here and there. One of the reasons why the 260 million that was allocated to this. That was given for immigration and to integrate people. It's because the people who were given to, they took the money out of the third sector. The third sector, the NGO world, does the best integration work in this country. I am one of the people. The reason why I'm in politics, if I was not in the third sector, I would never even understand my rights in this country, because the language skill that you need to understand this country is very complex. The country is very close. The people are very close. So when you go to NGOs, that's when you get to understand a little bit of this country. What has happened is, together with Keskusta and Perussuomalaiset, and by the way, the blueprint for immigration in the last 4 years didn't come from Kokoomus, it didn't come from Keskusta, it came from Perussuomalaiset, because that's the reason why they got to the coalition. And we know for a fact that this is a group of people who will do anything to make life harder for immigrants. So I think that it's very crazy that Daniel will really go and talk about the last 4 years. What we can see for a fact what has been doing. They have been taken hostages by Perussuomalaiset. Because everything else, the sote and everything else, Persut agreed that Kokoomus and Keskusta can have that. But you guys will have to give us immigration. That's why they were. And now he's talking on behalf of Perussuomalaiset in that way.
Thank you, Sue. Alex, we have to stick to the 2 minutes. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, so nice stories. I mean, the reality is that we have to revise and to check and to follow up really hard how those 250 billion was spent. As I see, I'm in opposite opinion about the third sector, and I'm a part of third sector. As I see how much money have been just thrown out to some activities where it was like 1 or 2 participants, but then they got like finally like billions of grants, like 1 or 2 billions of grants, and then they are organizing, they are like playing the integration game, that they are integrating. But if we come to their activities, it's like 1 or 2 persons who are participating, and it's like some old people who are involved there, like just because they had like otherwise nothing to do. So it's really easy to say that it's a the biggest job is done there. Again, I'm 100% for employment. The employment is the best integration. We have to change the system of integration, which is now consists of 5 days a week sitting in a class with other foreigners. It doesn't work like that. You cannot build that new like identity. As like sitting in a class with a classmates. You cannot build a new work identity without being in the labor market. So it should be. I mean, there are a lot of experiences from other countries, from Germany, from Sweden, how it works. In Sweden, just the statistics. The foreigner who has come to Sweden, if we don't speak about those who come through work and through employment, 1 year and a half, and they are in the labor market and they are working. 1 year and a half. We compare to Finland is 3-4 years. 3-4 years of sitting in different classes. That's not how it works. It works in a way that you are three days a week you are in the class, 2 days you are at your workplace. That you are trying different fields, where do you feel better in, and and then when you get enough language skills, then you make your choice. Yeah, so it's not about the third. Third sector makes really good efforts. Yeah, we have really good examples. And by the way, I'm inviting you Swedish integration. In Swedish integrations, we have really high rates.
Okay.
Of course, it leads to discussions, to debates, and you want to have
so,
moment to speak.
50
so
seconds.
very quickly, please, because we are at time. So Ajak and then Daniel.
I have to say that these amounts of time that people have had to speak has been really uneven. So it's quite should be checked.
Yeah,
Also, I
we are
like
counting,
to remind
so
all the
we can
candidates that
give you
please
that.
use that time that you are given. Do not blabber on. What was said about there are doers and then there are speakers. Well, it happens to be that the speakers, the people that talk, have been in the government actually, and have been doing the immigration policy. The interior minister, what you said that he said in 2015 about the 10,000 people, what happened, what he did was absolutely nothing. It's still 750. It happened for 1 year, 2015, it went up to 2,050, and then it went back to 750. What the Left Alliance has suggested is that we raise the minimum of the asylum refugees that we take in to 2,500. What happens in this integration process? Finland is quite difficult language to learn. Not just because it's made up differently, but it is quite difficult. We do not have to forget that this country operates on 2 languages. I used to work on the West Coast with people that just came into this country. What we found out was that for people that are not from EU countries, well, actually most of the majority of people that come into this country, it's much easier to learn Swedish than Finnish. And it's not a must that person has to have an A level of Finnish before going to work labor field. And we need to remember this. There's a possibility that we can teach people to learn Swedish instead of Finnish. Also, what happens to this, that who is arranging these programs for the people that come into this country so they can learn languages and work and whatnot. These are really insufficient ways of doing the labor. And the problem is that the NGO parties and organizations know much more than these that the government has outsourced the problem to. So this is how do we operate the money? And I think that the problem is that who is leading the country? When it is Kokoomus, Keskusta and Perussuomalaiset, things does not go well because they only care about the money that comes in, not the money that is good, that is used wisely and in the long term affects people well. And this is what we see all the time. Also, can you elaborate us on the doers and speakers thing about Kai Mykkänen? I would like to know.
Yeah, okay. So if Daniel, thank you, Ajak. So if Daniel, you could conclude. I think the audience would have.
Can you conclude for
1 minute, please, because I'm sure the audience also have questions and thoughts. So if you could just summarize in 1 minute, and then we can go on a lighter note.
Thanks for the question. The current, Kai Mykkänen has been the minister since last year, so he was not there in 2015 or 16 when the crisis happened. Yes, and I said what he said when he was elected as a Minister of Finance, and there was Interior, and that was his thing that he wanted to promote. So, and also to remind, in the government we have Keskusta, Kokoomus and Siniset, not Perussuomalaiset, and 200.
There's no government. They resigned from themselves.
So please pick your opinion and stick to it. So about the 250 million, it's totally spent in ridiculous ways. I don't agree at all when it comes to these integration practices. Our company is training hundreds of people and integrating hundreds of people, and we have not seen a dime of that money, and which I'm very proud of.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yes.
I've heard a lot of stuff during this campaign, but who's saying that I'm growing up with Perussuomalaiset has to be one of the funniest things so far. So thanks for that.
Just a minute, thank you for that round. So if we're concluding, so what you're saying, we're all agreeing that most of these activation models or these ways of integration are not working, they're not efficient. So there has to be different ways, so tackling different aspects of integration. So if they're refugees, have something that suits them, and if they are people that can work, something that suits them, and then you're then promoting then more partnerships with the third sector then. Okay, yeah, I'm sure there are questions, but then now just to get on a lighter note, we'll start with Fatem. Can you name one thing you like and respect from the other parties sitting there?
From the all other parties, let's start
Yes,
from
let's start.
let's start from that and the Swedish-speaking party. I think it's fantastic that your party has realized that defending all minorities means defending everyone, and that is something that I really respect. Then the Social Democrats, I see you guys as fantastic partners in getting stuff done. That is the way I see it. With Kokoomus, I think that it's fantastic that for Kokoomus, the race or the religion or anything doesn't matter as long as the person wants to stay active. And then the Left Alliance, they are our beloved. I think they are our sister party, and they're the one who keeps us in line. Because always when we know that we're being a bit too lazy, it is the Left Alliance that puts the Greens to our place. So I think the Left Alliance, yeah, I think that's, yeah.
Thank you. No, so the question is that...
Yes, I just want to check which party are you from.
Okay, yeah.
Well, Argope, I appreciate your way of tackling politics in a humane way. And I appreciate that also. I like languages, and it's good that you operate on 2 languages. As also Demari, you guys are partners in quite a few things, and I appreciate your politics and the